Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope you all are having a wonderful day today. Thank you so much to those of you who are subscribers to my channel. Thank you for those of you who stop by from time to time. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your emails. I invite you, as I've done in the past, to go to my playlist and you'll see a variety of videos that I've done. There are a variety of topics. You can check them out and see if there's something that may be of interest to you. And of course, you can watch my videos as they are uploaded. I want to get right into this video and talk about why you should not be ashamed of being a single parent. Whether you are a mother or you are a father, a single father, being a parent is a position of honor. Not everyone can do it. While there are circumstances that may not be the best, sometimes you become a single parent based on you were married and you got divorced, you were never married and you had a child. Sometimes there are some other not so pleasant ways in which you ended up with a child. Could be in situations where you thought someone could not get pregnant because they told you that and you believed it, and now you are a father or you are a mother because you believed whatever this person told you about not being able to have children. Whatever it is, children are still a gift. Children are a gift from God. There's nothing that you can accomplish more in this life. Yes, there are many things that you can do. There's many things that you can accomplish. But there's nothing that is as honorable as being able to bring life into the world. That's just a miracle, simply based on the fact that it is a miracle, the process. It's nothing that people can really explain. And while we have documentaries and there are many things that can explain the process of childbirth, there's just still so many miracles in it. In a child being in the womb, in the amniotic fluid, never once taken in any of that fluid. The child knows how to hold its breath and not breathe for all that time. Even though it's getting air through the umbilical cord, it is still a miracle that the child itself does not take in or ingest any of that. It is amazing that the child is upright, and as time goes by into the pregnancy, the child begins to rotate and prepare for coming into the world. And there are many other things, there are many other beautiful things about being a parent. Now keep in mind, I'm not encouraging anybody to go out there and have a child and just have children. If you don't have children and you don't desire children, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not encouraging anyone to go have a baby, because yes, babies are cute, but they are work. And they're not always going to be all chubby cheeked and smelling like baby powder. They're going to grow and they're expensive, and your life is going to change, and you're not going to be able to do the same things that you were doing before. And if you're doing the exact same thing and going out at the same amount of the same way you were doing before you had them, something is wrong with that. Okay. But let's get into why you should not be ashamed of being a parent. We're living in society where having children, depending on where you are, it's really looked down on, okay? If you're a single parent, ideally they want you to have children within a marriage, that's the ideal setup, okay? And some people may say, well, why should marriage don't last? There's no guarantee in marriage, so why does it have to be a marriage? But if you really think about it, even in marriages, there are no guarantees and things can happen, okay? So if things can happen in a marriage, why would you put yourself in a position to not be in a marriage? You see, there are a lot of differences with when people are married with children and when you're single with children. When you're married, and God forbid things happen and you do have to get a divorce, there are lots of laws in place and things in place in which there's certain things that's automatically just going to fall into place based on the merit of you being married, versus if you're single, then it can still happen, but it's just more complicated. Okay. More often than not, somebody could just walk away from you and nothing really will happen, even though there are some actions you can take. But in a marriage, it's still a little bit different. Yes, that person may take off and go somewhere, but the fact that they're married to you, they are just so many aspects of that person's life that's still tied to you. There's so many things that can take place if it goes to a judge, whatever. So, whatever. But the point I'm making is I am not encouraging people to go out and have babies. I'm not trying to say, yeah, keep being a single mom. Let's keep being single dads. Let's keep doing this. That is not what I'm saying. But I'm trying to address the shame factor that some people have when they have children. You having a child is not a scarlet letter. And I want you to not embrace society's narrative. Okay? Things happen. You don't have to go and follow the beat to anybody's drum based on what they think about you. And I think the problem with a lot of single mothers, as I will address here, single parents in general, but let's talk about single mothers, is that you're following what everybody's thinking and saying about you. A lot of times you may feel ashamed of your children and you're trying to act like you're single, or you are single, but you're a single mother. You may be lying. You may start dating someone and then you wait until they start to like you to spring the children on them, as I've seen once in an African video on YouTube. The man was getting ready to marry the lady, and he found out like the day that they were getting married that she had children, and he was not having it. Okay, and everybody was saying, "Oh, how could you do that?" But I have to hand it. I have to say it here. If you've been lying all this time, you're trying to trap this guy and spring it on him at the last minute. It says something about your nature, the nature of this person. So him choosing not to marry her, that's on her. That's just my opinion. But kind of just keeping it back to what we're talking about here is you having a child. It's not as if you gave birth to a bunch of roaches, or you gave birth to a bunch of beetles. It is nothing to be ashamed of. You had a child. It is a natural thing that happens in life, and you have no reason to be ashamed. You don't have to follow other people's narrative. You don't have to listen to what a specific group of people are saying, because just as there are people who have an issue with you having children, there are others who don't. There are perhaps men and women out there who they cannot have children for whatever reason, and they want children. Maybe there's a woman out there who's never be able to have children, a man who cannot have children for whatever reason. There are people out there who have lost their children, and they'll embrace it. And then there are people who are they're genuinely, it's in their nature that you having a child is not a huge deal. Now, with that in mind, you have to be careful, because you cannot, especially when you're a single parent, just bring any old person around just because they brought some candy and they seem good and everything. Should be a long vetting period. And in my opinion, this is not for everybody, but in my opinion, when you have young children, focus on raising them before you bring somebody around. Focus on till they get to a certain age before you bring someone around, because most of the times it's very rare to find a man or a woman who loves your children, who does not have ulterior motive, who will not be jealous, who will not be vindictive, who will not be selfish. There are more people that you will encounter that is extremely jealous, dangerous, and predatory in nature, that then it is to find those rare gems of individuals who have no intention whatsoever and loves you and your children. It is not that they don't exist, but they are rare, and it's going to take a lot of discernment. It's going to take a lot of vetting and a lot of time and trusting God to really find that individual. And sometimes you have to realize that maybe in your life right now, that's where your focus needs to be, on raising up the children that God has placed in your life. And as you are diligent in doing that, the Lord will reward you with the desires of your heart, should it be a partner. Sometimes there are things that you will not get right now because God sees that you're very needy. He may see some things that you may still need to work on within yourself, and that's why you can't have a partner. And you don't want to have this rotation of men or women in and around your children, because they're learning and you are showing them a way of being that could affect them later on. Now, on the flip side, I want to talk about not judging people who don't want to date you or go out with you because you have children. That is their right. I'm going to show you the flip side of this, okay? They're not bad people for not wanting to date you because you have children, okay? Now, some people are rude. Some people are just very disrespectful, the way they speak, the way they talk, and that's their character. That's who they are. However, so the way they're expressing their preference, if it's disrespectful, reflects on their character. And if you think when you're sitting, you listen to someone who speaks ill or speaks down or is very disrespectful to someone because they're a parent, then you count your lucky stars and you say, man, I am glad that, you should be happy that this person does not like children, because you don't have to worry about, this is the type of person that will be around yours. You see what I mean? So their character is shot, and them having a bad attitude about children, that's just a reflection of them and their nature regardless, okay? So you don't take it personally. At the same time, it's not a bad thing if someone doesn't want to date you because you have children. That is someone's right. There are people that's just like, hey, I don't want to date someone with children. I don't want to do play dates. I don't want to have to put car seats in my car. I don't want to be in any of that. I want to have a phone conversation, I want to be able to have a phone conversation and not be getting constantly interrupted because the baby's crying or the child needs something. I don't want someone who has another man or woman's child. There are some people where there are men that's just like, I don't want that. I don't want to have to try to understand, try to adjust to another man. I don't want to try to adjust to a child getting to know me. I don't want to deal with it. You're not my mom. You're not my dad. I don't want to deal with trying to blend into this family or this schedule between you or the emotional ties. There's some people that just don't want that. There are people who has had issues where they've been cheated on, they've been hurt before, there's been someone else, and even though you may be someone that won't do that, they just don't want to have another person in the picture. And some people, they don't want to raise your children because that's not what they see for themselves. And there's nothing wrong with it. I'll give you an example. I saw this show, and there's this guy. He's a single software designer, and he meets this lady. She's been married before, she's divorced, and she has a son. She sends him to all the best schools, and he has a lot of extracurricular activity that's very expensive. And she also her and her ex-husband moved within vicinity of each other, where they see each other, they have a schedule. And she's already telling that guy that, look, I already have this set up. There's a way we want to raise our son. There's just things that we do. There are things that we have together. And that's important. It's important for you to, I hope you're able to deal with that. And I mean, he agreed to it. Now, whether or not it will last, I don't know. But me looking on the outside, here's this guy, no children, successful, doing well. This lady's been married. She has a child. And she's already telling him that the father and I, we have the system that he comes by and I drop the child off, or I go by, or we do these things on certain days. Why should that guy try to understand that? It's good, that's fine, but he's basically altering or trying to, if he was single, he wouldn't have to worry about it. He doesn't have to worry, I'm sorry. If this situation, she didn't have a child, she doesn't have an ex-husband, their dating dynamics and getting to know each other will be very different. He will not have to refrain or know, hey, this is, I can't be a part of this, or standing on the sidelines in some situations, knowing that she has to go here and deal with this. It is can be a very uncomfortable or just different for someone who's single, because it's a sacrifice. It's really a sacrifice for them too. So I can understand that. Another aspect of it is, let's say the man, let's put it like a single father, he has his children, he has his way of doing things, whatever, and maybe he does not want you to, he has a system that he has with his son or sons or daughters or daughter, and you as a single female, you're trying to adjust to that. You're trying to figure your way in that. And there may be things he has to do with his ex, and there can just be so many things that he has to deal with. He has to go do whatever she needs him to do, or she's coming over, whatever, and pick up and trying to blend and trying to mold. It's just a lot easier not to date him, because there are a lot of things. Disciplinary, you're not the mother, you're not my mom. Maybe the mother does not want you to say anything, doesn't want the girlfriend or fiance or your new wife to say anything about the daughter. Trying to get together for events for the children. It's with the ex. For a person who's single that literally has all their freedom, this is just a sacrifice. And I'm not saying that you should, or being a single parent, that you're supposed to just allow somebody just, oh, I'm so glad you picked me, so just take whatever. I'm not saying that, but I'm just showing the flip side of perhaps why. A person just doesn't want to date a person with children. They may have had bad experiences. They may have tried it. And there are some people, their children, some people have very undisciplined children, disrespectful and rude children. They don't want to deal with that. And then when they're teenagers, that's even harder. They are not like little children that you can win over. Teenagers are completely different. Sons, daughters, they're just different. And teenagers have their own little mood, their own little way of being. And some people are just not trying to deal with that. They're like, I don't want to deal with that. And that's their right. So I would say don't blame people for not wanting to date you, or saying, I don't want to date any single mothers or single fathers. Now, what's ironic about that is that there are some guys that they are adamant and they're against single mothers. They're against single mothers. But for every single mother, there's a father. There are lots of single dads out there too. Okay? Meaning, for that mother that's single, the father's walking around there somewhere. It's just that the mother has a child. But yet, a lot of the guys that saying they're adamant against single mothers, a lot of their best friends or buddies with fathers who have, with the men who have fathers, yes, men who have multiple children and they're not married to any of them, but they're still the best of buddies and the best of friends. And so what it gets down to is just the presence of the child. They don't want to deal with a child, but yet they can be friends with somebody who's got several women pregnant, or they're divorced and they have children. They'll hang out with them. They'll be best buddies and friends with some of them. That's not always the case for everybody, that is. Now, some people may say, well, what's the problem? You were raised by a single mother. Maybe he was, and that's why he or she was, and that's why they don't want to deal with it. They saw what that was like, and they don't want it. And then there's some people who are just, there are lots of narcissists out there, and they are just about themselves. It's not even, yes, it is a choice, but they are just, some people are just, I don't want to share my life. I don't want to share anything with anybody. I don't like kids. I don't like them. Some people hate children, and that's their choice. But the thing is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to sit there and allow some random person or somebody that you like or you think is attractive, you're going to allow their opinion of you as a single mother, single father to dictate who you are, to the point that now you're ashamed of your children, or now you're becoming frustrated with them? They're just not the one. And that's all there is to it. They're not the one. And having children is a wonderful, wonderful experience. Things can be difficult and things can be hard, but eventually it gets easier. There are restrictions earlier, but as they grow, you can do more. They get older, you can do more things. Before you know it, there'll be a certain age you can go run some errands and do some things, because they're at the age that they can be home on their own. They get older, they'll start to do different things, and you get more freedom, and you've raised them, and then they get older, and you begin to reap the rewards of their accomplishments, in the sense of their success, right? It is their success, but they share that with you. They may get married, they may have children, and you get to see that. You get to hold your grandbaby. So what you have to also realize is, when you become a parent, you're in a whole different category now. Excuse me. You're in a different category now. You're definitely not in the same pool as that single mother, or I'm sorry, you're not in the same pool as a single male, single female who has no children. Your choices and decisions are going to have to be different. And you have to be wary, because, as I said, there are people that will come into your life, and because you are a single mother or a single father, and they have ulterior motives. They may think you're more needy. They may feel that you are so happy to have somebody that they can come in and do whatever. Okay? And unfortunately, there are a lot of parents that's like that. Single men, single women, single parents, who they've allowed society to paint this picture or put these limits on them to make them feel bad, because they're parents and they have children and there's something wrong with it. Who said that? There's a demographic that thinks that, yes, but then there's another that does not. And you should not worry about that. Focus on bettering yourself, being in a better position so that you can take care of your children. Work on yourself also, because sometimes there are things you need to work on. There are lots of people who are single parents, but they're kind of set in their ways. And so when someone comes in your life, you still have a baggage. And sometimes you're trying to squeeze them into this role to be a mom or dad real early, and that's just not how that works. And sometimes you're so busy parenting that you're not dealing with some things that you may have internally going on. It takes two to tango. So if you broke up with a person, or the person broke up with you, or the relationship was an amicable breakup, you may say this man, this woman was a dirtbag, but you chose them. So you have to explore that and find out, why did you still go out with this individual knowing what you knew about them? Why did you stay? You have to find that out, because if you don't, you're going to make the same mistakes over and over again. Or when someone comes in your life who's very healthy in mind, in spirit, you're gonna mess them up because you have issues. Then also, because you're used to being a single parent and on your own, you may not be in a position that you want to share your life. You also have to really think to yourself, are you okay with somebody being in your life? And are they going to be, how involved do you want them to be? You may want them to be there to support, but do you want that person to also be there to correct your child? Are you okay with that? Are you okay with them making decisions with your child? And if you're not, and it just gives you a little bit of pause, then right, no, you're not ready. So there are a lot of things to think about. I think sometimes people think about the companion element of it. Oh, companionship, you have someone with you. But when you're a parent, there's a whole lot more. You have to think about your beliefs, your convictions, all those things, how they discipline. And you may say, you're not going to discipline my child. You're not going to my child. That's why you need to stay single. Because I'm not saying you're supposed to allow anyone to do any old thing to your child, but that's a part of it. If you have someone in your life and you have children, if you're saying, well, you can't ever discipline my child, you can't correct them, you can't talk to them, and I'm not saying you're supposed to be allowing anyone to be beating up your child or hitting them, but what you are doing, you tie the hands of that person. The children recognizes that, and there's going to be this imbalance in the dynamics of your relationship and in what your children realize they can or cannot do. And that person, is going to be on the outside looking in, and it's you and your children. And yet you're going to be trying to figure out why they're distant, why they're not really involved. So these are just things that you will have to consider and look at for yourself, dealing with yourself, bettering yourselves, putting yourself in a position that you can take care of your family, that you are not depending on someone, that don't have your ducks in a row, you have children, and then this man or woman's been saving their money and doing these things, and then you come in and you have the children and all these issues and all the stuff that they need, and they're depleting their funds, and you're depending a lot on them because you don't really have anything yourself. You see, these are some of the things that could be problematic. And at the same time, you may have your ducks in a row, you have stuff together, you have things set up for your children. You want to be careful who you let in your life, who may not have everything and eat you out of house or home, right? So I would just close out by saying, who are you listening to? I will ask you that question. Who are you listening to? Who decides on why would you listen to someone who does not have children that's telling you that something is wrong with you for having a child? Why do you listen to the society that's telling you, oh, you're not deserving of love, you're not deserving of this and that? Or something is wrong with it, you should be ashamed of it. You had a child, and that is a great accomplishment, for bringing human life into the world. And that's it. You hold your head up high, you take care of your children, you teach your children manners, how to be respectful, how to be responsible, how to be accountable, and you live. And just know that what someone says does not define you unless you give them that authority and that power in your life. And anyone who doesn't like children, you don't take it personally. That's their right. So long as you don't directly address my children and disrespect my children, not a problem. They don't want kids, they don't like kids, they don't like children, they don't want to be around them. It's their right. They have a right to think that way. And you don't have to try to force that. You don't have to try to make it happen. And most importantly, you don't want to act like you're single, get someone to fall in love with you, and then you're trying to inch and squeeze in your children later on, and then you're playing the head games and talking about it shouldn't matter. Well, if it didn't matter, you should have been honest in the very beginning. So guys, that's all I have to say. I hope you feel better about it. And I hope you can also just realize people have a right to think and feel how they want to feel. They do not have to date you if you have children. If they don't want to date you and they prefer not to, then they're not wrong for that. But what you do and how you take it, that's what you worry about. Okay? And you shouldn't worry. Don't put your eggs in anyone else's basket. Oh, they said this, they don't want me. And I know sometimes, depending on the society you live in, it can be very difficult. It can be very difficult, especially if you're not necessarily in the Western society and culture. It can be hard. But regardless, you having a child was not by chance. And those of you that are single, I would say wait to have children, because children will change a lot of things in your life. I don't care how much that person says that they love you and all of that. They're just your boyfriend or whatever the situation may be, or your girlfriend. Just don't do it. It changes everything. Wait for marriage. Be sure this is the right person. And I'll say, when you get married, just enjoy your marriage for a while before you have children if you can. Because a lot of times I see people do that. It's like they get married and they immediately have children and everything changes. There are joys, don't get me wrong, but a lot changes. And I think it just is a cultural thing. You're supposed to just have children. You're supposed to have children within a year of being married. And there's nothing wrong with that if you choose to do that. But there's also nothing wrong with two people who say, hey, once we get married, we're going to take a couple years for ourselves to have fun, to enjoy ourselves, to do the things we want to do, to accomplish the things we want to accomplish first, and then have children. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. You may need to finish your degree. You may need to do certain things. Maybe you're working on certain projects. Maybe there's certain missions and things you still need to do. There's perhaps certain things God has called you to do that you need to finish that first. And then you bring the children, and nobody's trying to go off to classes and do all the stuff while they're trying to raise the baby and feel resentful because you're getting to do more than I am. You see what I'm saying? And again, as I said, there's nothing wrong with if within a year, 6 months, you're pregnant, if that is the road that you are supposed to take. And again, I can't tell you what to do in your marriage. But any hoots, being a single parent, being a single parent, whether you're a man or a woman, it is not a curse. I would not say go out and do it, because it is work. Ideally, it's great to have both parents around. Ideally, it's great to have a partner that you're with and you're raising the children together. And sometimes that does not happen. It doesn't happen the way you expect it to. But what you do from there is what's important. And do not allow society and do not allow people to make you feel less than, to make you feel as if you've committed some crime, to cause you to walk with a scarlet letter on you, feeling embarrassed and ashamed and becoming frustrated with your children. because of what people prefer. Their preference has nothing to do with you and your choices and who you are as a person or your worth or if you matter. That's their opinion. That's how they feel. But that does not have to be a reality, and you do not allow yourself to be trying to shrink yourself down and allow yourself to feel bad because you are a single mom or a single father. You're in a position of honor, so walk in it. Does this make sense? I hope so. God bless.